I can still see his face when he read it. Not anger, not hurt, just nothing. Like I'd finally given him permission to stop caring. Looking back now from my overpriced studio apartment in Pacific Beach, listening to college kids party while I drink wine alone, I realized that text wasn't a power move. It was a suicide note for my marriage, signed by my own entitlement. But I'm getting ahead of myself. No more intimacy, deal with it. 5 words, that's all it took to destroy 8 years. 5 words typed in a moment of rage and entitlement, sent to my husband Trevor while I sat in my best friend Jasmine's kitchen, drunk on wine and my own righteousness. "Send it," Jasmine had urged, refilling my glass. "He needs to know you're serious. Men like Trevor only respond to strength." I thought I was being strong. I thought I was finally taking control of a marriage that had become routine, predictable, boring. I thought Trevor would panic, would fight for me, would suddenly transform into the passionate man I'd convinced myself I deserved. I was wrong about everything. Trevor and I met at a mutual friend's wedding in La Jolla. The ceremony was at sunset on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, one of those Pinterest-perfect San Diego weddings that cost more than most people's cars. He wasn't the most handsome man there. That would have been the bride's brother, who I spent half the night flirting with. But Trevor was the one who noticed I'd been nursing the same warm champagne for an hour and brought me a fresh glass without being asked. He was the one who made me laugh so hard during the chicken dance that I forgot to be embarrassed. He was the one who walked me to my car at the end of the night and asked for my number with a nervous smile that made my stomach flip. Those early days were everything I thought love should be. Trevor was attentive without being clingy, romantic without being cheesy. He remembered how I took my coffee, oat milk latte with an extra shot, noticed when I changed my hair, and never made me feel stupid for crying at dog food commercials. He had this way of looking at me like I was the only person in the room, even when we were surrounded by people. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It wasn't some elaborate production, just the 2 of us on Sunset Cliffs, watching the sun dip into the Pacific, when he suddenly got quiet. "I want to do this forever," he said, gesturing at the ocean, the sunset, us sitting on a blanket with In-N-Out burgers. "Just this, with you." Then he pulled out a ring, not huge but perfect, and asked me to marry him with the waves crashing below us. I said yes before he even finished the question, and some tourists actually applauded. The first 3 years of marriage were good. Really good. We bought a house in North Park, adopted a rescue dog named Biscuit from the Helen Woodward Animal Center, hosted dinner parties on our deck where our friends would joke about how disgustingly in love we were while the California sun set behind the palm trees. Trevor supported my career in pharmaceutical sales, never complaining when I had to travel to conferences in Los Angeles or work late at the Scripps Hospital accounts. He'd have fish tacos from our favorite place waiting when I got home, would rub my feet while I vented about difficult doctors and competitive coworkers. But somewhere around year 4, I started noticing what he wasn't. He wasn't ambitious like my colleague Chandler, who was practically vibrating with the need to make regional manager and had just bought a showy house in Del Mar. He wasn't spontaneous like my sister's husband, who surprised her with weekend trips to Cabo. He wasn't fit like the guys at my CrossFit gym in Little Italy, who could bench press their body weight and had perfect tans year-round. Trevor was just Trevor. Steady, reliable, predictable Trevor who was happy surfing the same spots in Mission Beach and grilling in our backyard. "He's gotten comfortable," I complained to Jasmine over drinks one night. "Look at him, he's gained weight. He wears the same clothes every weekend. He's happy being a mid-level IT manager forever." "Men get lazy after marriage," Jasmine agreed. She was divorced twice, but I thought that made her an expert rather than a warning. "You need to shake things up. Make him work for it again." So I started pulling away. Not all at once, that would have been too obvious. I stopped initiating sex, claiming I was tired from work. I scheduled girls' nights during times we usually spent together. I bought new clothes, started working out more, got my hair highlighted, but when Trevor complimented me, I'd brush it off like he was just saying what he thought I wanted to hear. "You look beautiful," he'd say when I came downstairs in a new dress. "You have to say that," I'd reply. "You're my husband." The flash of hurt in his eyes should have been a stop sign, a warning that I was poisoning something precious. But I was too high on my own narrative of being unappreciated to see I was the one holding the venom. I started going to happy hours in the gas lamp quarter, staying out until midnight while Trevor waited at home. I joined a yoga studio in Encinitas, where wealthy divorced women talked about their settlement packages between poses. I spent weekends in Los Angeles for work that were really just excuses to feel single again, to pretend I was still the girl who could have anyone she wanted. Jasmine became my constant companion and validator. Recently divorced from her second husband, a biotech executive who'd left her for his 23-year-old assistant, she was bitter and eager to spread the poison. She'd moved from her mansion in Rancho Santa Fe to a luxury condo in downtown, spending her settlement money on Botox, wine, and bad decisions. "Trevor's holding you back," she'd say over $15 cocktails at rooftop bars. "Look around, this is San Diego. Successful men everywhere. Tech entrepreneurs, biotech executives, real estate developers. Why settle for someone who's happy being middle management?" I started believing her, started seeing every normal marital moment as evidence of Trevor's failures. He wanted to stay in and watch a movie? Boring. He was happy with our annual vacation to the same lake house? Unimaginative. He brought me flowers from the grocery store? Cheap. Meanwhile, I was creating an entire fantasy life in my head. I'd daydream about the doctors at Scripps who drove Teslas and lived in La Jolla, imagining passionate affairs and dramatic declarations of love. I'd flirt with venture capitalists at conferences, with surfers at beach bars, with anyone who represented something more exciting than my reality. I never crossed any physical lines, but emotionally, I was gone. The night I sent the text, I'd come home from a work event at the U.S. Grant where a new doctor, young, gorgeous, drove a Porsche, had flirted with me all evening. He'd asked for my number and I'd been tempted. So tempted. When I got home, Trevor was asleep on the couch wearing board shorts and an old SDSU t-shirt, our dog curled up next to him. The TV was paused on some documentary about marine life in the Pacific. The contrast between my fantasy and my reality felt unbearable. I fled straight to Jasmine's downtown high-rise. She opened a bottle of wine, some expensive vintage that was part of her divorce spoils, and I poured out my manufactured frustrations while the lights of the Coronado Bridge twinkled coldly in the distance. Trevor was letting himself go. Trevor was boring. Trevor didn't make me feel desired anymore. Trevor was wasting my youth in America's finest city. "You know what you need to do," Jasmine said, eyes gleaming with the kind of excitement that should have been a red flag. "You need to take control. Stop giving him everything while he gives you nothing. Cut him off. Make him realize what he's losing." "But what if what? He leaves?" She laughed. "Please, men like Trevor don't leave. They just try harder. Trust me, I've been through this. You need to show him you're not some doormat wife who'll put up with mediocrity." 3 glasses of wine later, I typed out the text. Jasmine watched over my shoulder, encouraging me, telling me I was brave, telling me I was finally standing up for myself. No more intimacy. Deal with it. I hit send before I could think about it too much. Then I drove home, expecting to find Trevor panicked, upset, ready to fight for our marriage. Instead, I found him exactly where I'd left him. He'd woken up, seen my text, and nothing. He was in the kitchen, making himself a sandwich, calm as could be. "Did you get my message?" I asked, trying to sound confident. He looked at me with those brown eyes I'd fallen in love with, but something was different. They were empty, resigned. "Yeah," he said. "I got it." That was it. No questions, no begging, no anger. Just acceptance. And somehow, that was worse than any fight could have been. I went to the guest room that night, telling myself I was making a point. But really I was unsettled by his calm, This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Over the next few days, Trevor became a ghost in our own home. Not angry or petty, just absent. He stopped asking about my day, stopped suggesting we grab acai bowls or hike Torrey Pines, stopped reaching for me in bed. It was like he'd taken my text as an instruction manual and followed it to the letter. But then something unexpected happened. He started getting up at 5 a.m. to surf before work, started cycling up Mount Soledad, joined a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym in Miramar. Within weeks, the soft IT manager I'd grown bored with was transforming into someone I didn't recognize. Lean, focused, confident. "Good," Jasmine said when I told her. "He's sulking. Give it a week. He'll come crawling back." But he didn't. Instead, he started changing in ways I hadn't expected. He joined a gym in Mission Valley, started meal prepping, lost weight. He stayed late at work, not to avoid me, but because he'd volunteered for a new project with a tech startup in Sorrento Valley. He was polite when we crossed paths, but there was no warmth, no connection. It was like living with a courteous stranger who happened to have a key to my house. I started trying to get his attention. Wearing bikinis around the house, even though it was October, cooking his favorite carne asada, suggesting we hit up our old spots in Ocean Beach. But Trevor just smiled politely and excused himself. He had dawn patrol surf sessions to wake up for, coding boot camps to attend, a life to build that didn't include me. "I thought you wanted space," he said one night when I complained about him going to the gym again. "I'm just dealing with it, like you asked." The words stung more than any argument could have. Jasmine kept pushing me to stay strong. "He's playing games," she insisted. "Don't give in. Make him work for it." So I doubled down. Started going out more, posting photos on social media of me at rooftop pools in downtown, beach clubs in Del Mar, wine tastings in Temecula, always careful to crop out Jasmine, making it look like I might be on dates. I bought new clothes from the boutiques in La Jolla, got my nails done weekly in Hillcrest, acted like I was living my best San Diego life. But Trevor didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't care. One night, about a month after the text, I came home late from another girls' night to find Trevor in his office, laptop open, papers spread across his desk. "Working late?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe in a way I thought was seductive. "Yeah," he said without looking up. "Finalizing some things." "Anything I can help with?" That's when he finally looked at me, and the detachment in his eyes made my blood run cold. "No," he said simply. "This is something I need to handle myself." I should have known then, should have seen the signs, but I was too wrapped up in my own games to realize Trevor had stopped playing. I found out what those papers were 2 weeks later when I was served with divorce papers at work. Right there in the Scripps Hospital pharmacy, in front of my colleagues and half the medical staff, a process server handed me an envelope and asked me to confirm my name. My hands shook as I opened it in the bathroom. Irreconcilable differences, division of assets, custody arrangement for Biscuit, all laid out in cold legal language. The words looked sterile, almost merciful. I drove straight to Jasmine's downtown condo, sobbing so hard I could barely see Pacific Highway through my tears. She opened the door, saw my face, and her expression shifted from concern to something else. Annoyance? Disappointment? "He's divorcing me," I gasped out between sobs. "Already?" she said, and something in her tone made me pause. "What do you mean, already?" She sighed, pouring herself wine but not offering me any. "I mean, I thought you'd have more time to fix things. Men usually take longer to actually file." "Fix things? You told me to stay strong. You said he'd come crawling back." Jasmine shrugged. "Well, I guess Trevor's not like most men." That's when it hit me. She hadn't been trying to help me save my marriage. She'd been trying to destroy it. Misery loves company, and Jasmine had been miserable for years. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew this would happen." "Oh, please," she scoffed, pouring herself a glass of rosé while looking out at the harbor. Don't blame me for your choices. You're the one who sent the text. You're the one who was unhappy. I just gave you the push you needed.
Needed for what?
To be free, to stop settling, to join the club. She gestured around her expensive but empty condo at the skyline view that couldn't fill the silence. Welcome to divorce number 1, honey. Trust me, it gets easier. Plus, now you can actually enjoy this city instead of being stuck in North Park playing housewife. I left without another word. Drove home to find Trevor packing boxes in the garage, Biscuit following him around looking confused. Please, I said, can we talk about this? He stopped, set down the box he was holding, and really looked at me for the first time in weeks.
What's there to talk about? He asked. You made your position clear. No more intimacy. I dealt with it.
I didn't mean,
yes, you did.
His voice was calm but firm. You meant every word. You were just expecting a different reaction. I was upset. I was confused. Jasmine said, Jasmine. He laughed, but it was bitter. You took marriage advice from a woman who's been divorced twice? Who shows up here 3 nights a week to complain about how all men are trash? She's my friend.
No, she's your enabler. There's a difference.
He picked up another box. You know what the sad part is? I saw it happening. Watched you pull away. Watched you start to resent me for things I didn't even know were problems. I kept thinking if I just loved you harder, if I was just patient enough, you'd remember why we worked. We can still work, I pleaded. We can go to counseling.
With what trust?
He interrupted. You told me, via text message, that you were done with intimacy, not just sex, intimacy. Do you know what that word actually means? It's not just physical, it's emotional closeness, vulnerability, connection. You didn't just cut me off from your body, you cut me off from your heart. And you did it like you were canceling a subscription service. I started crying then, ugly sobs that made my whole body shake. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. I know you're sorry, he said, and for a moment his voice softened. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry it didn't work out how you planned. He was right, and God, I hated him for being right. When did you become so cold? I whispered.
The night you told me to deal with it.
He hefted the box and walked past me.
I'm staying with my brother until I find a place. My lawyer will handle everything else.
What about Biscuit? He paused at his car. She's in the divorce papers. We'll share custody. Unlike intimacy, I know that's something you can actually commit to. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Trevor was fair, more than fair. He didn't want alimony, didn't fight for the house, even agreed to let me have Biscuit most of the time. His generosity somehow made it worse. Like he just wanted to be free of me as quickly and cleanly as possible. I kept the house, but couldn't afford it on my own. Had to sell and move to a small apartment in Pacific Beach, surrounded by college kids and tourists, a far cry from our quiet street in North Park. Jasmine and I fell out completely after I confronted her about her role in everything. She moved to Scottsdale, said San Diego was played out anyway. The doctor from the U.S. grant, the one with the Porsche who'd started this whole spiral, asked me out a week after my divorce was final. We went to Nobu in Del Mar. Over $200 sushi, he casually mentioned his wife, who was understanding about these things. Turns out he'd been married the whole time, had 2 kids in private school in Carmel Valley. When I called him out on it, he laughed and said he thought I knew, thought I was looking for the same thing he was. A distraction, a thrill. Nothing real. I've been single for 6 months now. I tried dating apps, went on a few setups from well-meaning coworkers, but every man I meet, I compare to Trevor. Not the Trevor I was married to, the one I'd grown bored with, but the Trevor who'd calmly walked away. The one who'd shown more strength in his silence than I'd shown in all my dramatics. I found out through mutual friends that he's doing well, got promoted to senior management, bought a condo in Little Italy overlooking the bay, even started dating someone. A teacher named Grace who volunteers at the animal shelter in Linda Vista, where he now helps out on weekends. They met when he was picking up Biscuit from doggy daycare. Apparently she teaches at the elementary school in Bankers Hill, drives a Prius, and makes him laugh like I used to.
She's nothing special, our mutual friend Kevin told me, clearly trying to make me feel better.
Pretty normal looking, drives a Honda, seems nice enough.
Nice enough, normal looking.
Everything I'd thought was beneath me when I had it. Last month, I ran into Trevor at the farmer's market in Little Italy. He was at the organic coffee stand, wearing a wetsuit peeled to his waist. He'd been surfing at Sunset Cliffs, the place he'd proposed. The transformation was complete. Gone was the soft IT manager I'd grown bored with. In his place stood someone who looked like he belonged on the cover of a fitness magazine, all lean muscle and sun-kissed skin. Biscuit saw me first, tail wagging, pulling at her leash. "Hi," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "Hey," he replied, polite, distant, like we were acquaintances who'd once shared a few college classes, not 8 years of our lives. I petted Biscuit, who was beside herself with joy to see me. At least someone was happy about this encounter. "You look good," I said. And he did. He'd kept the weight off, dressed better, carried himself with a confidence I didn't remember him having before. "Thanks. You too." Silence stretched between us, filled only by Biscuit's happy panting.
"I heard you're seeing someone," I ventured.
"Yeah." A small smile crossed his face, genuine, warm, the kind I used to take for granted. "Her name's Grace." That's great. I'm happy for you."
"Thanks." He glanced at his watch. "I should get going. Grace is making dinner."
"Of course." I stepped back, letting go of Biscuit's collar. "Trevor?" He paused, looking back at me. "I really am sorry. For everything." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded.
"I know. Take care of yourself, okay?"
Then he was gone, walking away with the dog we'd adopted together, heading home to a woman who appreciated what I'd thrown away. A woman who probably never had to be told that he was enough, because she was smart enough to see it from the start. I walked back to my studio apartment in Pacific Beach, past the bars already filling with day drinkers, past the beach where happy couples played volleyball, past all the life I'd thought I was missing when I had everything. My apartment was a far cry from our North Park house with its deck and garden. Now I had a view of a dumpster and the sounds of drunk 20-somethings stumbling home at 3 a.m. I poured a glass of wine, cheap stuff from Trader Joe's, not the expensive bottles Jasmine and I used to share, and sat on my second-hand couch. No Jasmine to text, no Trevor to take for granted, no fantasy life to retreat into. Just me and the echo of 5 words that had cost me everything.
No more intimacy. Deal with it.
He had dealt with it, just not the way I'd expected. He'd dealt with it by recognizing his own worth, by refusing to beg for scraps of affection from someone who'd weaponized love. He'd dealt with it by leaving me to live with the consequences of my choices. And now, sitting alone in my small apartment, scrolling through photos of the life I'd thrown away, I was the one who had to deal with it. The silence, the emptiness, the knowledge that I'd had a good man who loved me completely, and I'd thrown him away because I was bored. Turns out there are worse things than being bored, like being alone in a city full of people, like being wrong in a place that constantly reminds you of what right looked like being the author of your own tragedy and having no one to blame but yourself. Jasmine was right about one thing: it does get easier. Not the divorce, that stays hard. But living with yourself after you've destroyed something good, that gets easier. You learn to numb the regret with happy hour margaritas, to rationalize the choices with therapy speak, to pretend you're better off. But late at night, when the Pacific Beach parties die down and my apartment is quiet, the truth creeps in like the marine layer that blankets San Diego every morning. I didn't lose Trevor. I threw him away, and he was smart enough not to let me pick him back up when I realized my mistake. The text took 5 seconds to type. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. But the lesson? That's taking a lifetime to learn. Some people don't know what they have until it's gone. Others, like me, know exactly what they have. We just convince ourselves we deserve better, right up until we're left with nothing but regret and a phone full of photos of the life we were too entitled to appreciate.
Deal with it, I'd told him.
He did, and now so do I.